All right, good morning. So, I need to organize my comic books. Now, they're mainly X-Men comic books, but there are other ones. You can see this one. I kind of went through and I did X-Men Volume 2, so I've got some there. Looking at Volume 2, it came out after Uncanny X-Men, 90s. And if you look, I go all the way down to issue 2 in this one. So with issue 2 is the first one in this box. Let me see how I can do this so it's easier. All right. So this box, we got like issue 2 to 113. Oh, and look at that. That is probably one of my favorite covers. I got actually another one up on the wall upstairs. This is actually one of the first ones I got. I started collecting comics around the time that Superman died, back in the 90s. My dad ran a paper out. He was a carrier. He distributed to like paper boys and gas stations and other things. And they had brought home a newspaper article about Superman's death. And that, oh, the X-Cutioner saga. That's one of my favorite X-Men storylines. I'll go more into that later. Only 2 issues though. There should be 3, I thought. Maybe I'm missing one. But it's Superman, when he died, it was in the newspaper. And I read it, and I went downtown to my local comic book shop. Didn't even know there was one. Gateway Comics and Games. But they were all sold out. So instead, I ended up picking up a Captain America. Now, Captain America, I don't know why I picked him up. Either got him from the Gateway Comics and Games or from grocery store, supermarket. And eventually ended up buying out of there. It was American Arts and Entertainment. They had like grab bags. And I ended up getting an X-Men grab bag. And I had this one and a couple of the other ones. And I started reading those and I absolutely fell in love with the X-Men. So you notice a lot of the X-Men. Fatal Attractions was an awesome storyline. This is the issue actually where Magneto ripped out Wolverine's adamantium. That charged a whole few years. 26. So that may be one of the reasons why I got from Captain America into the X-Men, the blood ties. But you know, I went down there and it was my first foray into comics. Ooh, the issue where Cyclops and Jean Grey finally got married. Great issue. Great issue. I didn't like Cyclops at the beginning. Like everybody else was like, oh, Wolverine's the greatest. Well, Wolverine is a great character, but he was never my favorite. That's actually one of the reasons why I stopped collecting comics later on, around the X-Men movies. Because they started making the comics black and leather and more Wolverine and its amazing friends. The Phalanx Covenant, that spurned off Generation X. I've got that series somewhere. It stretched through a handful of issues over various different continuities. Gambit is my favorite, so you can kind of see those. Right now, I just need to go through, see the Legion Quest. I remember reading this one. I ended up ordering from Entertainment Monthly, and I would be ordering my comic books about 2 to 3 months in advance, so I got ended up with a lot of spoilers. But when Professor Xavier was going to die, I ended up getting a couple of those issues. I should have had more. I thought I ordered 3 or 4. Oh, 3, 4. Yep, 3 or 4. And then this would from here would turn off into Age of Apocalypse. That's another great series that we'll go over through those issues later on. But you can kind of see I'm reorganizing them. So I keep the GoPro, it's my son's. I'm trying to film this as I go through it. And I'm having problems with it. So August, July, my eyes are bad too. So I'm not always be able to hear the numbers. After the Age of Apocalypse, it came back with Onslaught. Ooh, this is a good issue. This issue I ended up picking up. It reviewed Gambit's Long Dark Head Secret. Not as bad as you'd think it would have been, but still a pretty good one. Just turned out he had assembled the Marauders for Mr. Sinister during the Mutant Massacre. So yeah, going through, we're getting a lot of organizing them. What happened was I collected these, God, 90s to 2000s, so I've got a chunk. And I used to have them all in long boxes. You can see the short box here, but I used to have them all in long boxes. They were all organized, you know, in order. Ooh. This is the Herald of Onslaught. Really cool issue. There's another one where Cyclops ends up with the Acolytes. And he's got to fight a Herald of Onslaught or something. But right now I just need to get them in order. So March. So this must be variants. I hate it when they move the numbers. Yep, issue 50. Ooh, Dark Beast. And this is where they try to split the memories, because Bishop, being a time traveler, he ended up being in the past when Legion killed Professor Charles Xavier, so he ended up living, and that'll go into it. Yep, more Onslaught. Onslaught was a cool character that we end up finding out was Professor Charles Xavier with Magneto's evil, because back in issue 25 of the regular X-Men, the one I showed you where Wolverine got adamantium yanked out, Professor Xavier mind-wiped Magneto. Just took his memory because of all the harm he has done. And that infected him. And that's why he leaves, because he turned out to be bad. That's when we got into the whole Heroes Reborn, where the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and Iron Man, all of them, they all died. Franklin Richards, with his Omega level abilities, shuffled them off into a different universe, which I had collected those too. I don't know if I've got all of them. I did end up, after I stopped collecting comics, selling some, I think, to my cousin. He ended up having a house fire, which brings me back. I used to have these all organized. They were all, you know, in order, in their nice on long boxes, so it was like one box a series. And then I had a house fire. That house fire mainly took out my kitchen, and the comic books were not affected, but they still took them to clean them, probably to charge my insurance company more money. And they came back and boxes, not comic book boxes like these, but like those little white boxes that you see on my shelves, and they were completely disorganized. So now I ended up buying a bunch of short boxes and taking them out of the office boxes to, you know, get them organized better and on a shelf, because otherwise they're just, you know, getting moved from room to room. And eventually I never really, ooh, a Team United, a Dream Reborn. I wonder if this is the issue where the Cerebral mutants become the X-Men, but then they go back. Ooh, and like I said, one of my favorite couples, Gambit and Rogue, still. I haven't watched X-Men 97 yet, the cartoon, but I will sooner or later. I heard Gambit died in there. Sorry if I spoiled it. Yep, the hunt for Xavier. That's when they went looking after Professor Xavier, because he was missing. Yep, see, and you can see Cerebral. They had done a... yeah. And then we got the Magneto War. So with the Magneto War, Joseph had come back as like a de-aged Magneto. Caused a whole bunch of problems, you know. He was trying to hook up with Rogue and all that good stuff. And then it ended up actually not going anywhere. So I don't ever remember what happened to Joseph. Skrulls. They're not back from the dead. They were Skrulls. Ooh, and I love this issue. One of these where Professor Xavier has to tell Galactus, you can't eat these people. And he's like, well, this has already happened. So it has to happen. So, but with the X-Men, Death Reviewed, I'll give you a hint. He's our favorite Canadian short meanie. The Apocalypse 12 was a very old storyline from the early issues of X Factor when Apocalypse first came out, and ended up being a way to recharge Apocalypse's body. The Ages of Apocalypse is not the same as Age of Apocalypse. Totally different storylines. Look at that, 100. So I do have all these 100 issues. Ooh, the Revolutions. This is where Rogue took over the X-Men team, and Gambit took over the Uncanny X-Men team. We'll go through those sooner or later. Right now, like I said, I just want to see if I can catch them all, get them all organized so that they're back where they're supposed to be. I'd already kind of gone through this one. That's why you can kind of see that it was labeled a little bit on the front. But I was really just trying to get them all back into their proper order. Trying to get them all together. And I'm not quite sure how that's working. 100-page monster issue. That's why that's so thick. But I do like going through them, to seeing all the cover artwork and what I missed. I don't remember a lot of these later ones. I think I was just reading them because of momentum. And you kind of see black suit, but we'll see more of that when we get to when they change the title from X-Men to New X-Men. That's issue 113, and I believe in here, in this one, I've got some other issues. You can kind of see Deadpool, Elektra, some Spider-Man issues. Ooh, and Avengers 400 or 375. We'll go over those. See, when I tried to branch off, when I originally started collecting Captain America, I only bought him. I did not. Ooh, there's the Heroes Reborn. I got this from Wizard the Half issue. Look at that. But I think this, yep, these are the ones I wanted from this box. Yep, see, another X-Cutioner song. So, we got 14, 13, 12, 11. We got 10. Oh, 10. Now this one I got for my brother. He had bought it for me before I even started collecting the X-Men, so it was actually pretty cool that he gave me an issue. 9. He actually would buy me random issues here and there. And 8. And there we can put these on top of the 7. So then we got the deluxe cover for X-Men #1. I believe Jim Lee was the artist, writer, and then you got all 4 variants that would. Did I get all? That would, yep. That make up when you unfold that one. A lot of the Magneto ones ended up being there. Alright, so those are my X-Men issues. We're not done yet. Flashback, they did this where they went to -1 and redid some histories. Then you got the annual 3, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and 2000, and then 2001. See, that's the new X-Men. I hate it when they went that way. But should I do these differently? I don't want to go by age. This is just for me trying to figure out how to organize them. So there are my earliest X-Men issues. We'll put those on number 1. And this should be 2. Yep. And then what do we got back here yet? Okay. So we'll take those. Alright. Yeah, the X-Cutioner song that you kind of see there, I'll go over that. I actually have a trade paperback that I want to reread. Slide them all in there. See, we'll go to issue. These boxes are supposed to hold 100 issues, 125 to 150 issues. And you see, I got 100 in there, but there's also, as you saw, lots and lots of duplicates. So we'll go with issue 100 there. So this is my X-Men Volume 2, first box. And then we need to look into see, and we're gonna do issue 100, so it kind of marries them up. So now we got to go back through and finish this off. So 136. What do we got here? 116. So somewhere I have to have 114. And like I said, right now I'm just verifying the issues are in order. I didn't like the new X-Men. Like, Cassandra Nova was a neat, that's Charles Xavier's sister from the womb that never survived or something. She was a neat character, but Grant Morrison and the other writers, they kind of took their own series and made it their own thing. There was very limited crossover, if I remember. Very limited tying them together besides the name of X-Men. And the new X-Men. I remember the thing like, oh, look, if you turn it upside down, it says new X-Men again. Wow. Very neat. I remember reading about that in an article around the time. I just thought to myself, why are you changing it? I hated when authors would come in like, well, I'm writing now. Yeah, well, luckily I never read her. It would have been Gambit all the time. 126, 127. Zorn was a neat character, but it ended up just to be Magneto in disguise. That was weird. And of course, Jean Grey, when she was becoming Phoenix again and lost control, she'd eventually die again. Jean died all the time. And of course, that would kind of ruin the marriage between her and Cyclops. They had him having an affair with, you know, of course, Emma Frost, which went on for years. I don't know if it's still going on. Like I said, I haven't actually picked up an X-Men comic in, God, 20 years. Like I said, right now, I just want to get through them, get them organized, because I do have some neat stuff to go through. But I need to go through my old comics first. You know, the ones I purchased way back in the day. And make sure they are in order. All accounted for. I mean, there's not a whole lot I can do if they're not all accounted for. 37. And I'm pretty sure, 154, see? That, ooh, Astonishing X-Men, that one does not belong there. You see, this is the issue. They're all mixed up. I don't even remember the Astonishing X-Men. I thought that was by Chris Claremont. No, Chris Claremont came back and did Extreme X-Men. Astonishing X-Men, I believe, 137, there we go, was one of the Age of Apocalypse team names when they rebooted all of the series to the Age of Apocalypse. All right, so we got 139. Is this 140? It is. yeah, like I said, these later ones, I barely remember anything about them. Did any of you guys read these at these times? Do you remember any good storylines from the new X-Men era? I remember in Uncanny X-Men, they had Nightcrawler become like a pasture, and that was all weird. It was some big thing. All right. $147, $148, $149, and $150. I believe this is where Wolverine killed Jean Grey, and then she went back and told Cyclops to not close himself off from love. That looked like Nightcrawler. Weird beast. That is beast. Yeah, see, 153, 154, and 155. There we go. There's that missing one. Like I said, and here they dropped new X-Men, 2 X-Men. $159, $160. One, and then at one time Gamut was blind. I have a t-shirt that I cut off the sleeves, but that was a cool, and they brought back Havoc from Mutant X and everything else, and Polaris, and I don't know who that Zorn is. 163, 164, and 165. So now I do have some concerns. 116, so I'm missing 114 and 115, which I should have somewhere. That would be a shame. Yeah. All right. So, ooh, white box. Pardon my mess. You kind of see a lot of crap. But I need the other box. Hopefully, we find 114 and 115. I know, I think the one is Wolverine and Wolverine and Jean Grey kissing on the cover. I hated that cover because it's like, oh my god, this crap again? When are they just gonna let Cyclops and Jean Grey be together? So yeah, that's a shame and actually a little sad that I am missing those 2 issues. Alright, but let's see what else is in this box, just so we know.